Estamos en vivo.
Dear friends and colleagues, my name is Fernando González Saife, and I am the Mexican Consul in Detroit. Our consulate represents Mexico in Michigan and Northern Ohio. If your company wants to do business in Mexico, we can certainly help you or act as your liaison with the competent authorities in Mexico. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming to Michigan virtually, and we hope that in person in the near future, Mexican Undersecretary for Trade, Usmca, who will address USMCA, highlighting its importance in Michigan. As we all know, our new treaty entered into force last July 1st, 2020. The agreement replaced Nafta as North America's guiding trade framework, governing the movement of hundreds of billions of dollars in goods and services. Today, we can agree that Nafta was not perfect. However, we cannot undermine the fact that since Nafta came into force in 1994, U.S. jobs linked to trade with Mexico grew from 700,000 to 5 million approximately, or half the population of Michigan. Moreover, since NAFTA was signed, U.S. trade with Mexico and Canada has more than tripled, growing more rapidly than American trade with the rest of the world. Mexico is now the U.S. second largest export market and its second largest trading partner. When Mexico exports to any place of the world, 40% of our inputs were previously imported from the U.S. So each time that Mexico exports, it's beneficial for the U.S. Mexico is also the first or second most important export market for 26 U.S. states. However, many do not know that even if Mexico and Michigan are not geographically neighbors, more than 140,000 jobs in the state depend on free trade with Mexico. Last year, we reached the amazing sum of $70 billion in Michigan-Mexico trade. In the US, only Texas and California have a higher trade with Mexico. 22% of Michigan's worldwide exports go to Mexico, and Mexico is Michigan's second largest export market. As an example, Michigan exports to Mexico are larger than all US exports to Italy, Spain, and Israel combined. In Michigan, in my talks with auto industry executives, I have been told repeatedly that Mexico, the US, and Canada don't sell and buy auto parts to each other. We build cars together. They are North America made. With its entry into force, USMCA will create a more competitive US manufacturing environment and concurrently strengthen our North American region. It will give certainty to investments for a vibrant North American supply chain. Regarding the auto industry, of great importance to Michigan, open markets and integrated supply chains provide the framework. Mexico and the US and Canada are united by nature, geography, and destiny. Our future can benefit the people of our countries by the prosperity and opportunities we created together. The entry into force of USMCA is a step forward in a major North American regional achievements. And now, let me introduce our speaker, Luz Maria de la Mora, Undersecretary for Foreign Trade. As of December 1st, 2018, she is the Mexican Vice Minister of Foreign Trade in the Ministry of Economy. She was head of the Unit of Economic Relations Cooperation in Mexico's Foreign Affairs and head of International Trade Negotiations Unit in Mexico Ministry of Economy. She has also been head of Mexico's Economy Ministry before the European Union in Brussels and ALADI in Montevideo. In Washington, D.C., she was part of the NAFTA negotiation team, and she has also been a NAFTA Chapter 19 panelist and consultant of the Latin American division of the World Bank. In the academic field, she has been a visiting researcher at the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington, D.C., and at the Center for U.S.-Mexico Studies at the University of California in San Diego. She holds a bachelor's degree in international relations from the Colegio de México in Mexico, a master's degree in international political economy from Carleton University in Canada, and a PhD in political science from Yale University in the US. As you can see where I'm going, this is truly a USMCA educational profile, having studied in top-notch schools in Mexico, Canada, and the US. Welcome, Undersecretary Luz Maria de la Luz.
Thank you so much, Fernando. I very much appreciate the possibility of being with you all today. Thanks for organizing this event, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today virtually using technology to be able to have this conversation with you and the Detroit and Michigan community. It is really a great pleasure and a great opportunity to be talking today about where are we getting to with respect to the new USMCA, the US-Mexico-Canada agreement that, as you mentioned, succeeds Nafta, and I think that it builds on an already very integrated production sharing scheme in North America. So I do appreciate the opportunity of having this, I hope, conversation. I would like to make some remarks, a brief presentation of why Mexico continues to be key partner for Detroit and for Michigan. And if you allow me, I will share my screen so that you can follow the presentation. And then after that, I will be very happy to entertain some questions if that's okay with you. So please let me change my screen and see if it works, I hope. Technology is great, except when it doesn't work. So I hope that it works now. And if you could just let me know if the presentation is moving, because sometimes it's okay. So please let me know if it's moving.
It is moving.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Well, so as Fernando was mentioning, Nafta became effective in 1994. This was Nafta was a story of 26 and a half years. And now we are starting a new era of integration in North America. July 1st is the date in which we will remember the relaunching of a North American history of integration and production sharing, and of course, integration. So where are we with respect to Nafta? And I don't want to take too much of your time explaining what is USMCA, because I'm sure that all of us here today know somewhat of what USMCA is. However, I want to highlight some areas in which I think we can identify why do we talk about a new era of integration in North America. And the first one has to do with the fact that USMCA builds what NAFTA created in the early 1990s. USMCA, as NAFTA, provides a clear set of rules that offer certainty to investors, producers, exporters, agriculture producers, service providers, and anyone who is related to the operation of production in North America, trade and investment. USMCA maintains free trade in goods and services, and it also offers the rules that will allow investment to flow freely in the three countries. And that will certainly remain one of the main foundations of North American integration. In this, in the screen you see right now, some text that is colored in red. These are the provisions that were coming already from NAFTA and that were modernized, adjusted, and modified to reflect the realities of the 21st century. And they are now incorporated into USMCA to reflect this new reality. Those provisions that you see colored in green are those policy areas in which the three countries, we decided to integrate more policy, public policies, and make them a North American regime with respect to environment, labor protection, anti-corruption, and provisions related to the new economy, the digital trade, macroeconomic policies, e-commerce, and regulatory practices. So these set of rules that you see in this screen right now make 34 chapters, which are make part of the new USMCA. they reflect that we want to have for the three of us in North America, and they also deepen the level of integration and will allow us to have a better quality of integration and more inclusive, with more benefits to everybody throughout North America. And let me tell you, where do we see are the main results? We hope to have with USMCA better level of regional competitiveness. North America is a competitive region, but with provisions regarding preferential access, regulatory coherence, investment, temporary entry of business people, and sanitary and phytosanitary measures and technical barriers to trade. Those provisions will allow us to remain competitive production in a competitive region. Provisions regarding inclusion of small and medium-sized companies, which make the most of the productive sector in North America, are also part of the new USMCA, along with issues related to gender, labor rights, anti-corruption, and environment. Those policy areas, which are now integral part of USMCA, will definitely make a change in the quality of the integration and into the depth of the integration. As a result of including these policy areas, the three of us are now more of a region. We have more of a regional view with respect to the kind of policies in these areas that we want to develop in the region. Very importantly, the dispute settlement mechanisms that are incorporated in USMCA are key to maintaining that level of certainty. The three countries, we decided that we wanted to abide by a set of rules. And if for any reason we do not comply with those provisions, with those commitments that we made in USMCA, then there are a few dispute settlement mechanisms that the three of us can use, state-to-state mechanisms, investor-state, or trade remedy laws. They can be part of a mechanism that will offer an independent opinion, an independent panel, an independent view that will let us know whether the way we are interpreting our obligations in USMCA are right or not. And if they're not, then we need to make sure that we go back to the original commitment. So that is very important because that offers certainty to investors and producers, exporters alike in North America. And then the opportunities for the 21st century. It was already very important to update the rule book of North America's trade with respect to the new economy, the digital economy, the e-commerce economy. Well, the USMCA provides for those kinds of provisions that will allow North America to develop a regional digital economy. In addition to that, the chapter on intellectual property, which is a very robust chapter, will also ensure that innovations, creation, inventions, everything that's related to value added to the knowledge economy will be respected and will be observed. So that will guarantee us that without a question, North America will be an attractive place for value added investment, and that will shape the face of North America. One of the most important areas in which USMCA changed with respect to Nafta has to do with the automotive origin regime. I think that what we have in front of us is a great challenge, but I also see this as a great opportunity. It is a great challenge because for the first time, we are not only seeing at a regional value content for a product in the automotive sector to be able to enjoy preferential access to the North American market. We are talking about a set of rules, a set of components that compose the whole regime for the auto sector. And this has to do with a labor value content that for the first time it is being tested in a trade agreement. A labor value content of 40% for light vehicles, 45% for light and heavy trucks. And these are meant for complying with materials, technology expenditure, assembly expenditures that have to come from regions that pay $16 an hour, $16 US an hour. So that is a completely different component from what we used to have in the region. That will definitely invite investments into those areas. Certainly, Michigan is one of them. The second component has to do with the regional value content, a 75% regional value content for vehicles, light vehicles, and 70% for heavy vehicles. This is the highest probably percentage of regional value content of any free trade agreement in the world, also with respect to North American partners. So I think that in this area, this high percentage presents the challenge of being able to procure from North America, procure from the US, from Canada and Mexico, and to have the right supply chain. However, it also offers this great opportunity of attracting investment into the region, of making sure that we can strengthen the supply chain in North America, and that more parts and components that are produced in North America will effectively be part of that value chain. North America as a region is a key player in the auto sector worldwide, and anybody that wants to enjoy the benefits of preferential access in the region will have to comply with this high regional value content. There are also core parts as well as essential parts and principal parts. So with this new set of parts classification that have each one a 75% regional value content, 70 and 65% regional value content, then we are making sure that those parts that are classified in those three big groups, big categories, will also have to be produced in the region. And that shared production of auto parts in the region will certainly help to comply with the regional value content of 75%. And last but not least, the new automotive origin regime also requires that steel and aluminum comply with a 70% regional value content of purchases in North America. As of the 7th year of entry into force of USMCA, 70% of steel, the value content, will have to be complied with a new rule of origin that says, or that requires, that steel has to be melted and poured in the region. Therefore, what you see here is a very robust regime for the automotive sector, which has the potential to build a very strong North American region. And the challenge for us will be to make sure that we as a region, we as governments and as industry, make sure that this new regime remains a competitive one, a competitive sector. So I'd like to move fast to the next part of my presentation that has to do with the North American partnership. As you know, President López Obrador paid a visit to Mr. Trump, President Trump, in the US, and he went to Washington on July 8th. And this was a very important visit to us because having been inaugurated the new era of North American integration on July 1st, President López Obrador, meeting with Mr. Trump, reaffirmed Mexico's commitment to Nafta and to the future of North America's economic integration. Where are we with respect to that integration? That's what I would like to discuss with you very briefly right now. When we talk about North America, we're talking about a market of close to 500 million consumers. We represent a little bit more than 6% of world population. But the GDP of the region as a whole is close to $26 trillion, which represents the second global economy. That is to say, North America as a region represents the second largest economic bloc in the world. In 2018, We were the first recipient of foreign direct investment in the world. And as a global actor in international trade, we represent close to 16% of global trade. And we are the second largest global exporter. As a region, we have our trade has grown to $1.2 trillion, which represents 20% of the region's total trade that we do among ourselves. For Mexico, North America and the Nafta was a boost in terms of helping Mexico to become part of the North American factory. Mexico, the US, and Canada produce together, and Mexico has been able to participate in this shared production in North America as a result of investment that we have received from the US, $277 billion between 1999 and March 2020, and $41 billion from Canada in this same period. What is significant about this foreign direct investment is that it has allowed Mexico to reshape its manufacturing sector, but also other sectors, for example, mining, agriculture, services, the financial services sector, and the like. So the integration that NAFTA allowed us to happen was not only as a result of investment, but also as a result of the liberalization of tariffs in trade in North America. As you see in this graph, Mexico's trade with North America grew at a 7.5% average annual growth rate. There's been a dynamic growth in terms of imports and exports from Mexico and Canada since 1993, when our trade amounted to $91 billion, and last year it was $601 billion. And in 2019, Mexico became the US most important trading partner, surpassing Canada and China, reaching $650 billion. Most importantly, Mexico's participation in the US market was close to 15% of the US total trade with the world. And this is significant to the extent that we have experienced a close to 100% growth in terms of our market share in the US market. In the early 1990s, when NAFTA became effective, Mexico's participation in the US market was close to 7.5%. Today, we have doubled that amount as a result of this integration scheme. Also in the agricultural sector, Mexico became a top trading partner in agricultural products. In 2019, Mexico and the US traded more than $47 billion in agricultural products, where Mexico has become the top export market for products like corn, soybeans, pork, and some dairy products. Mexico is also a key market for US states exports. As you see in this map, Mexico is the number 1, 2, and 3 export market for 29 states in the United States of America. You see in this map, Michigan appears here, and as Fernando was saying at the beginning of this conversation, Mexico is the second largest export market for 19 US states, and one of them is Michigan, which has been supported by the auto sector. Michigan is key for the Mexico-US trade partnership. Michigan's trade with Mexico accounts for 11% of the total trade flows between Mexico and the US. So that is a very significant share of the trade that we make every year. Mexico-Michigan trade supports more than 128,000 jobs. Exports to Mexico accounted for 20% of Michigan's total exports, with $11.2 billion, while imports from Mexico represented 41% of Michigan's total imports, accounting for $58.2 billion. So it is without a question that the most important sector in which we participate together is the auto sector, but also the electronic sector and the energy sector. As you can see in this graph, Mexico's exports to the US focus on cars, computers, auto parts, trucks, and the like. And on the US exports to Mexico, we focus also on auto parts, accessories, computers, integrated circuits, and motors, engines. While for Michigan and Mexico, the story is very similar. Mexico-Michigan trade accounts for close to $70 billion, and it supports regional supply chains specialized in the automotive, the electronics, and machinery sectors. And you can see here where are Mexico's exports to Michigan and where are Michigan exports to Mexico. And you can see that there is a lot of intra-industry trade and also a lot of intra-firm trade in North America. And that also is supported by the participation that Mexico has with North America, with the United States, and with Michigan in the production of vehicles. Michigan is key for the automotive regional supply chains, accounting for 37% of total trade of vehicles under parts between Mexico and the US. In this map, you can see how spread is the map of assembly plants of light vehicles and their engines in Mexico. Almost every original equipment manufacturer is located in Mexico, produces in Mexico, and that brings a benefit to the US and to Canada. And the reason is that every original equipment manufacturer in Mexico, every producer in Mexico of vehicles is integrated somehow with the US and with Canada and with plants in Detroit and in Michigan. 38% in Mexican auto exports to the US, 38% is US content. So that tells you about the level of integration that we have among the three of us. In 2019, Mexico sent to the US exports worth $101 billion of vehicles and their parts, and the US sent back to Mexico $21 billion. So this is a very dynamic sector where we see a lot of activity taking place, and under USMCA, we know that this integration will not only continue, but it will deepen. And more importantly, it will allow us to further procure from each other to the extent that we will have to strengthen the supply chain of auto parts in North America. One additional piece of information that I think it's important to bear in mind is that exports from Michigan's top metropolitan areas rely on Mexico. The metro area, Detroit, Warren, Dearborn, accounts for $17 billion in terms of exports to Mexico, which represents 47% of the metropolitan area's total exports to the world. So why look into Mexico? Why choose Mexico in order for this integration to continue and for Michigan and Detroit to thrive in terms of integration, in terms of production, in terms of economic activities? And let me share you why it is important to consider Mexico as a key trading partner, as a key ally for the business community in Michigan and the business community in Detroit. Let me offer you a number of indicators that I think will help you build an idea of where we are and why Mexico is so important as a trading partner to the US. Today, Mexico is the 7th largest exporter in the world and the first in Latin America. Mexico boasts a network of 13 free trade agreements with 50 countries, including Canada and the United States, as a result of USMCA. From Mexico, producers and production connects with close to 1.3 billion potential consumers in the world that are part of 60% of the world's GDP. So when a company decides to establish in Mexico, they know that they have a competitive advantage because of the kind of access, of preferential access that they can get for their products, their services, and their investments. Mexico also offers a solid infrastructure and a logistics network. According to the World Economic Forum, we rank among the top 30% countries with the best infrastructure in terms of transportation, in terms of roads, railway tracks, ports, and airports. We also have a strategic location and very competitive logistic costs when we compare ourselves with China. On the left side of the screen, you can see the shipping costs from Mexico as they compare to China. For Mexico, it is $9 per square meter compared to $140 per square meter from China. So that gives any producer advantage of being established in Mexico when they want to serve the North American market. And also with respect to maritime days to selected destinations, you can see here in this table that from Mexico to New York or to LA, distance is really short. Days are only a few compared to longer journeys from other countries like China, India, Brazil, or South Korea. And Mexico also has more than 50 ports of entry between the US and Mexico. Mexico also has a very diverse and innovative industrial platform. I think that this is one of the most important assets to consider Mexico in your business plan. And this is because Mexico ranks today as the 19th most complex economy, where more than 2/3 of our exports are in high complexity sectors. The importance of this indicator that I'm telling you about is that it tells you about the possibility of the Mexican economy to absorb new processes, new sectors, new methods, new methodologies to business. So we have the in industrial infrastructure, the human resource infrastructure, and that kind of infrastructure that an economy requires to develop innovations. So in this table, you can see that industry shares of Mexican exports by economic complexity are quite relevant in the automotive sector, electronics, agriculture, service, minerals, textiles, chemicals, metals, and the like. Mexico also is a leader in certain sectors worldwide. For example, we became in 2019 the 6th largest world producer of vehicles, and we are the 4th largest exporter of vehicles worldwide. We are also the 6th largest supplier of aircraft parts to the US, the 6th largest exporter of information technology products and services, and the 8th largest exporter of medical devices worldwide. We have a competitive and cost-effective manufacturing sector. In this table, you can see in terms of the cost of natural gas for industry, we are way below some of our most important competitors in the developing and developed world. And also with respect to the global manufacturing cost, the Boston Consulting Group Competitiveness Index locates Mexico with an index of 86, which shows a high level of competitiveness. Anything that is below 100 is more competitive than the US economy. Anything above 100 is less competitive. So Mexico and the US together can contribute and can offer a very competitive manufacturing base for any company who wants to develop their businesses in North America. Mexico also is 3rd in terms of mobile broadband subscriptions within the OECD. Our internet connectivity and our broadband access supports the 4th industrial revolution, supports the Internet of Things, a digital economy, e-commerce, and whatever is related to technology and to the digital space. In Mexico, 74% of broadband subscriptions have a mobile penetration rate. The annual growth rate of mobile broadband subscription is 17%. And today, Mexico has more than 92 million mobile broadband subscriptions, which tells you the rate in which internet connectivity is getting throughout the whole country. We also have a young, competitive, and skilled workforce. I think that it is very important to bear in mind that Mexico is a young country. On average, the average age in Mexico is 27 years old. In terms of the economically active population in Mexico, you can see here that almost half of that population is located in the cohort between 30 and 49 years old. So we are a young population that is definitely the bulk of the human resource in Mexico. And as a result of the kind of education that we have in Mexico, you can see that the share of graduates that every year graduate from engineering programs represent 17% of total graduates in the whole country. That compares very favorably with respect to other countries in the world. So these are one of the areas in which I want you to think of when you think about Mexico and why Mexico is a good business proposition for you. And I would like to conclude my remarks at this presentation just by mentioning a few things that I think we can think towards the future. The first one has to do with where are the challenges that we're seeing right now. I think that having in place USMCA on July 1st, even though there were some questioning and were some concerns with respect to the possibility of implementing USMCA, implementing provisions, the new provisions of USMCA for business was going to be a challenge. I think it was also an incredible timing, because we also know that in these very uncertain times, being able to have some kind of certainty and some kind of guidance towards where to move in North America, I think this was very important. And I think that implementing USMCA offered a roadmap for North America and for each one of our economies. In the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused so much uncertainty and so much pain for so many people in terms of jobs, in terms of production, in terms of health and lives, the fact that the three governments, Mexico, the US, and Canada, have been able to work together to coordinate protocols, to define conditions, to allow transitions towards reopening productive activities has been very important. It has been key to be able to align essential sectors, like, for example, the transportation sector, which has been considered essential among the three of us, has been a result of the good communication and the good dialogue that our three governments have. Mexico coordinates effectively at the state level, at the local, at the federal level, for us to be able to define how do we implement reopening, and also how to make sure to reap the benefits of USMCA for everyone in North America. Also, under COVID-19, we have seen that technology has allowed us to keep our activities going. It is amazing that today we can see each other today through technology, virtually, and we can have these kinds of events and these kinds of meetings using information technology. So we value the fact that we are able to use this technology, but also we value the fact that these are provisions that are already integrated in the USMCA. The USMCA will allow us to further boost the digital economy. And I think that this pandemic has shown us the huge potential and the speed by which we can grow this sector. So this is an opportunity that we need to pursue and that we need to further move ahead in terms of integrating North America in the digital space. I know that there's still challenges with respect to the future of the region as we handle the pandemic, but the fact that we have the USMCA in place today puts us in a very different situation with respect to other regions, in the sense that USMCA brings an opportunity to rethink value chains. USMCA will be a key factor in the economic recovery of the three countries, as it can contribute to companies that are deciding to relocate, to nearshore their production to be closer to the final consumer, and to decouple from sourcing from third regions. We understand that regional value chains have their own dynamics. Regional value chains have to be resilient, while they also have to be competitive. And to build resilient global value chains, USMCA is a very good instrument for companies, because we can guarantee that the kinds of rules that are contained in USMCA will help companies to remain competitive. And I think that at this point in the evolution of the pandemic, and at this point in where companies and sectors are looking for ways to strengthen their value chains, I think USMCA and Mexico specifically can play a very important role in making sure that global value chains remain in place, that they operate efficiently, that they operate competitively, and that they have to sacrifice resiliency for competitiveness. So USMCA opens a host of opportunities for us in North America, and I hope that when you consider developing your businesses in North America, you can continue to consider Mexico as a key business partner, as a key ally, and as a source of strength for your businesses in North America. I will be very happy to entertain any questions that you may have, and thank you very much for having me today with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister de la Mora, for this presentation. Now we can move on with the agenda and start with a Q&A session. We received dozens of questions. Thank you for your interest and for sending them in advance. Due to the time we have available, it will be difficult to answer all of them. Nevertheless, we will send a written response to each one of them by the same email that we received them. Before moving into the questions, on July 1st, the Ministry of Economy of Mexico made available to all companies, businessmen and businesswomen the USMCA Trade Assistance Center. It is a digital platform created to provide commercial and technical information about the USMCA. And also the purpose is to highlight the commercial opportunities and the trade benefits that the modernization of the agreement offers to the business community, especially to the small and medium-sized enterprises of North America. I would like to invite you to use our platform and be a frequent user of our USMCA Export Assistance Center. Please send us your comments and questions through this platform. Now we can move to our first question. Vice Minister de la Mora, what are the main challenges that the auto industry is facing regarding the new rules of origin? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, as I mentioned in the presentation, I think that the whole regime of origin for the auto sector in USMCA sets a very high standard in terms of regional value content, not only for vehicles, but also for auto parts, for steel, aluminum, and also for the labor value content. These are important provisions that every vehicle that we want to sell in North America will have to comply with in order to be able to enjoy preferential access. And that very high standard also is set for a very short transition period of 3 years. So having said that, as the challenge, I also think that there are huge opportunities for Michigan and Detroit, and also for Mexico. Why? Because we will have to make sure that vehicle producers will be able to have all of the components, the parts that they need in order to make sure that they can comply with this very strict rule of origin, so that they can enjoy preferential access. So in this respect, I think that the opportunities are in attracting more investment in the region, knowing that this investment will yield positive results, positive returns on investment, because there are certain guarantees for production in North America that are not enjoyed or may not be enjoyed by competitors in other regions. The second thing that I think it's important to bear in mind is the supply chain in North America in terms of procuring at the level of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 will need to be strengthened in the region. And I think that we have already proven that we can be very effective in terms of producing together. What USMCA will bring us is the opportunity to continue to produce together, but also paying attention to all of the components, all of the value chain that will have to be developed in North America. Many of the products or many of the components that today we were, or before USMCA, we were procuring from third regions, from Asia, from Europe, or from any other area of the world, may need to be produced in North America. So we may be able to attract those companies to invest in the region, or the companies in North America may be able to develop new business lines, new developments. So I think that it is important to bear in mind that we have a short period of time. We only have 3 years before we have to comply with these new values. And I think it's important that those investments take place fast and that we work very closely together to make sure that we can comply with this new rule of origin. Thank you. No se oye.
So, my apology. Thank you for your response. The next question is the following. What is the schedule to implement the rules of origin with the recent alternative transition regime?
Okay, USMCA itself, in one of the articles, provides for the possibility of having alternative staging regimes that will allow vehicle producers in North America to have a longer period of time, not only 3 years, but probably 5 years, or maybe even more, if they make the case that they need longer periods of time. So what we're looking into is that companies will have more flexibility to comply if they present a reasonable and a credible transition plan. And that will give them the flexibility of maintaining the current Nafta regional value content standards, that is to say 62.5% during the transition period, as long as they can show us that they will be compliant with the new standards. July was the date in which the 3 countries, the US, Mexico, and Canada, received applications for those alternative staging regimes. We're in the process of analyzing them, and we hope to be able to have a final decision in the next, I don't know, month or 2. And what is important is that what we're getting from companies is the commitment that they will find the way to make their North America supply chain more resilient, and also to make sure that their investments are done in North America. So that the reason why we are looking into this flexibility, which were already contained in the USMCA initial negotiation, is because we think that this transition period may result in good investments for all of us, and that at the end of the day will result in jobs, which is at the end of the day what we all want for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is the following. What sectors in Mexico have the biggest opportunities for trade and investment under the USMCA?
Well, that's a tough question. I would say every sector has opportunities under USMCA. I want to go back to one of the parts I was mentioning in my presentation with respect to the complexity of the Mexican economy. The Mexican economy has proven to be extremely effective in terms of producing manufacturing that incorporates different levels of technology. Mexico is not only that produces or assemblies, garments or footwear. The Mexican economy has the level of industrial bases that can produce an automobile, that can produce parts for aerospace aircrafts, that can produce medical devices, that can produce pharmaceuticals in the with patents and innovation. So we have a very complex industrial economy that provides for the basis to develop all sorts of manufacturing activities. But I also want to mention, and I think that it is important to bear this in mind, that USMCA also provides for the agricultural sector, where Mexico is very competitive, and it's an extraordinary complement to the US agriculture, and also brings the kind of health and fresh produce to the table of all American families. And that is a very thriving sector. And we benefit also from the very competitive and efficient production in the US, for example, grains, dairy products, and the like. And in the digital economy, what USMCA has defined as the regional provisions for the development of the new economy, that knowledge-based economy, is definitely going to have a boost as a result also of the intellectual property provisions that are incorporated in USMCA. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister de la Mora. There is another question. What benefits does the USMCA bring for small and medium-sized businesses?
Yes, thank you. Look, the first thing that I would say about small and medium-sized businesses is that USMCA is really built for small and medium-sized companies. And why do I say this? Large companies, big corporations, do not need the help of anybody to do business. They know how to solve their problems. They know how to address legal issues, etc. What USMCA brings is the rulebook for North American integration. So for a small and medium-sized company, having access to USMCA will let them know exactly where they are standing. And in addition to that, complemented with what you were saying, Gerardo, with respect to the center, the consultation center that we have put in place. Also, the SBA in the United States has a number of centers where they have information available for small and medium-sized companies. That is really the most important contribution that we can make to small and medium-sized companies. In addition to that, I would also like to mention that USMCA has a chapter that specifically addresses the needs of small and medium-sized companies. The three of us have committed to making sure that small and medium-sized companies know how to enjoy the benefits of USMCA through different mechanisms, through different toolkits, through different schemes. What we need to make sure is that small and medium-sized companies have the information that they need without any additional costs. So the three of us are working in websites. Gerardo and our office in Washington can offer you all of the information that you may require. But we have placed small and medium-sized companies at the center of integration and at the center of strengthening global value chains. With the new rules of origin that we have defined, there is the need. It is essential for us to make sure that SMEs are part of the value chain in North America. Thank you.
Thank you. We still have time for a couple more questions. Do you expect any changes in the issuance of TN visas that exist under Nafta?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. That is also a very good question. Thank you. Let me tell you, Nafta established temporary entry provisions that allowed qualified citizens in North America, from Mexico, from the US and Canada, to apply for a temporary entry visa to the 3 countries. This remains under USMCA. There were no changes. I can tell you that a working group was established for a temporary entry of business people. This group will meet once a year. How we can further facilitate the temporary entry of business people. It is very important to say that we may request, or we may see how that these visas, the TN visas, can be improved, the process of the streamlining the process, or even seeing whether we can make it more effective in terms of the use. But I can tell you in general that the regime remains in place without any changes, and that should help transfers among companies of personnel to make it more effective in North America. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have this final question about the IMEX program. How is the IMEX program going to work under the USMCA?
The IMEX program is considered among the different provisions that are considered in USMCA. So far, the IMEX program is working in the same fashion as it used to work under Nafta. I am aware that the area that is responsible for this program is revising it to improve it and to streamline some of its procedures. So I think that Gerardo will keep you posted on any modifications that will come in the next couple of months. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vice Minister Luz Maria de la Mora, for your presentation. Thank you, Consul Fernando González, for hosting and organizing this event. And we want to thank you all for your participation. We hope that this event has been productive and useful for you to take advantage of the USMCA and doing business with Mexico. If you have any further questions, please contact us or send us your email. We will be happy to assist you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Gerardo. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.